The LA Kings are perfect on the preseason, now 3-0. One player may have already decided a roster spot battle, and we had a look at what the Kings power play units might look like for this season. All that and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com, and you can win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. Also one of the co-hosts of Locked On NHL Game Night, a nightly NHL recap show during the season, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Well, the LA Kings are undefeated this preseason, now 3-0 after a convincing 3-0 shutout win over the Ducks in Anaheim Wednesday night. From a team standpoint, pretty dominant effort by the LA Kings. We mentioned the 3-0 win. The Kings allowed the Ducks only 14 shots on goal, while the Kings got 30 shots. As far as the power plays go, we'll get into that a little bit later. But really no surprise if you're looking at the stats on the YouTube show, just 14 shots allowed. The Kings were the second best team in the NHL last season as far as fewest shots allowed per game. So yes, it's preseason, but still nice to see the Kings continuing to be able to suppress shots on net. It's obviously one of the reasons why Darcy Kuemper had such a good season. Obviously, Kuemper doing it as far as what he needed to do in net last season and in this game, but it goes hand in hand. Good defense, low number of shots having to be seen, and then, of course, the goaltender, when called upon to make the saves, making the saves as well. We certainly saw that in the shutout win over the Ducks. The Kings have now allowed a total of 2 goals in 9 periods of preseason hockey so far. They've had 3 different goalies in the process all get wins: Carter George, Anton Forsberg, and now Darcy Kuemper. Offensively, LA has 9 goals from 8 different goal scorers: Alex Turcotte, Alex Laferriere, Andre Lee, Taylor Ward, Trevor Moore, Martin Chromiak, Kevin Fiala, and 2 by Jeff Malott. We're going to talk more about him coming up. As far as, again, the rest of the stats in this one, Ducks 0 for 2 on the power play. Kings were 0 for 6. Faceoffs 1 favored the Kings 54.3% to 45.7%. For Anaheim, hits favored the Kings 21-15. Block shots favored the Ducks 16-12. So the Kings defeat the Ducks for a second time in 3 of their preseason games. Anaheim, though, did play a pretty NHL-heavy roster in this one. They had 9 of their 12 expected forwards that are going to start the season play in this one. 4 of their 6 expected starting defensemen played in this game, and at least for half the game, they played their number 1 goalie in Lukas Dostal. So the Ducks were pretty much dominated in this game, and it wasn't because they put out a young group that wasn't expected to be at the NHL level. This was a lot of NHL regulars for the Ducks in this one. As for the Kings lineup, certainly want to give you the information on that because it obviously changes game to game. We did see the Kings play their top 2 forward lines. We saw the first preseason action this year for Andrei Kopitar, centering Adrian Kempe and Andrei Kuzmenko. Kevin Fiala made his preseason debut as well, playing on the second line where he's slotted to play this year with Quentin Byfield and Alex Laferriere. The Kings also had their top defensive unit in this one with Drew Doughty and Mikey Anderson. We saw Brandt Clark paired with Joel Edmondson this time around. And we saw number 1 goalie Darcy Kuemper in net, who played the entire game in this one. So this was pretty close to the Kings' opening night roster. And also the same for the Ducks. So we did see a lot of regulars in that game that the Kings were able to win 3-0 over Anaheim. So before we get into more of the individuals for the Kings, now they played in this latest preseason win, I wanted to talk about the Kings power play units. For the first time in this game, we were able to see, because the players were available in this game, we saw a 5-forward power play unit for the LA Kings. Andre Kopitar, Adrian Kempe, Quentin Byfield, Andrei Kuzmenko, and Kevin Fiala. Now, they didn't score a goal, but I thought for the first look for this season, that 5-forward power play unit looked pretty good, and it's exciting to watch. It's a unit that, and we've talked about this in past years, when you have a good power play and when you have a bad power play, what kind of mental effect that has on everyone, on the players, on the coaches, on the fans. When you've got a good power play and you draw a penalty, you get excited about that. When you don't have a good power play and the other team makes a mistake, you feel like, well, we're not going to make them pay for it. It almost takes away from you. So the Kings, we know, didn't have a great power play last year until the end of the year when Andrei Kuzmenko joined in. They go to the 5-forward power play unit. So I'm really, really excited about seeing this 5-forward power play unit for an entire season. I'm very excited about it. Obviously, when you're playing 5 forwards, there's going to be, greater offensive skill out there. And one of the things I really love about this unit, because of the way they can stick handle and the moves they can make, how easily they're able to get the puck into the offensive zone and get the power play set up quickly. And just the more zone time you have, obviously increases your chances for success on the power play. And I love Adrian Kempe on the point. And there was a moment in this game against the Ducks where the Kings turned it over and it looked like Anaheim was going to have a 2-on-0 shorthanded break. And Kempe, using his great speed, awesome back check, he gets up, breaks up the play, and the Ducks don't even get a shot on goal. Andrei Kuzmenko, down low behind the goal line, stick handling. He makes the entire defense freeze and try and figure out what exactly he's going to do. That's fun to watch. And Kevin Fiala on the wing, ready to unleash a one-timer. I'm very, very excited about this Kings number 1 power play unit and the potential it has together for an entire season. And the second power play unit, at least in this game, featured both Drew Doughty and Brandt Clark together. And I was worried that one of the downsides of having the 5-forward power play unit would be that maybe Brandt Clark was going to get squeezed out of power play time because you knew Drew Doughty was going to be out there. And I'm fine with that as long as Brandt Clark can be a part of it as well. And at least for this game, I thought it was encouraging to see those two guys together on the second power play unit. So we'll see if that continues once the regular season gets here. All right, let's get into some individuals. And I got to start with Jeff Malott. And if you haven't watched any of the past 2 preseason games or our past 2 shows recapping the 2 preseason games, you might be surprised to hear Jeff Malott. He's been very, very good. And he was again in this game. This is a guy who's playing a bottom 6 role. And he has done so much in limited minutes because he's not playing a primary role. But in this game against the Ducks, he had a steal, primary assist on a Martin Chromiak goal, also a beautiful deflection in the high slot on a point shot into the net for the Kings' second goal of the game. Talked about it coming into this season, the preseason. With the injury to Corey Perry, who was going to get that left wing spot on the 4th line? And if Jeff Malott hasn't already answered that question, I would be shocked. Now, I know last year he filled in for the injured Tanner Jeannot, played the final 12 games of the regular season, played all 6 playoff games. And maybe that should have been an indication to people like me who thought that it was kind of an open competition for that Corey Perry empty spot to start the season. If that was the case, the competition, I think, is over. I think Jeff Malott has been one of the best players for the Kings, if not the best player so far this preseason. And yes, he's played all 3 preseason games, so he's had more opportunities, but he still has to go out there and make plays, and he has. He's not spectacular. Again, he's in a bottom 6 role, so we're not, talking about a guy who's going to be super impactful, but he just makes plays. He plays good defense. He's been way more creative offensively than I would have thought he would have been. Maybe not quite as physical as I thought maybe he needed to be, but overall, he's been just fantastic, and good for him for seizing this opportunity. And barring an injury, I don't see how he's not on the fourth line opening night. And I think not only will he be there until Corey Perry returns, but I think if it goes halfway decent, I think once Perry does return, that Malott has probably earned that extra forward roster spot. And this is a guy we didn't count on to being on the roster, but I think not only is he going to be there opening night, as it stands right now, I think he could be with the Kings all season. He's proven that if you need to fill in on one of the wing spots in the bottom six, that he's somebody that's capable of doing that. So I just, again, feel good for a guy like that. He, was not one of the big prospects for the LA Kings. And we figured he was just kind of a depth guy, an AHL guy, a guy who could fill in a hole if needed. But he's played well. And as Jim Hiller, the head coach of the Kings, said after the game, he said he looks like an NHL player, and he definitely does. He definitely does. So good for him. Now, it's possible that if the Kings have two extra forwards on the 24-man roster, maybe one of those other guys, Akil Thomas, Samuel Hellenius, Andre Lee, or Liam Greentree, maybe they could make the opening night roster. Akil Thomas did have a nice scoring chance in this one. Hellenius, once again, okay, but didn't stand out. And as I would say, as it stands right now, I don't think Liam Greentree is going to get that 9-game audition at the start of the season. I think the way Jeff Malott has played, I think it makes it, at this point, likely that Liam Greentree will get sent back to his junior team to start the season. So I don't think we're going to see the NHL debut of Liam Greentree as it stands right now. Things can change. Injuries, certainly, if that factors into it, could make things, that decision different. But as it stands right now, looks like Jeff Malott, I think, has already wrapped up that opening night spot on the fourth line in place of Corey Perry. All right, lots more to get into, including Brandt Clark showing he's ready for a bigger role. That's next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you want to bet, player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, continuing our recap of the Kings 3-0 shutout win over the Ducks in Anaheim on Wednesday night. And I've talked about my desire to see Kings young defenseman Brandt Clark on the second pairing this season. We've heard from GM Ken Holland about growth from within, and he's mentioned by name Quentin Byfield, Alex Laferriere, Brandt Clark as part of the next step for the Kings to get where they want to go. It can't just be the new guys coming in and doing their role, but the players, the younger players, also taking a step forward. And certainly Brandt Clark looks to be a big part of that. Now, he didn't have a point in the win over the Ducks, but he was a +1, and he played 21 minutes and 13 seconds. Talked about him playing on that second power play unit. Now, Drew Doughty, of course, led the Kings in ice time, as he always does, but he had 23 minutes and 31 seconds. So, again, Doughty, 23 minutes, 31 seconds. Clark, 21 minutes and 13 seconds. That distribution of minutes for the first and the second defenseman on the right side there, that is what I think is what I would like to see during the season. I'm not, like I've said, I don't expect Drew Doughty to not be leading the Kings in ice time, but he doesn't need to be playing 25, 24 minutes. Something around 23, and Clark getting like 21. I think that is what I hope to see. That is more minutes for Brandt Clark, and that is more opportunities for him to be a bigger part of this Kings team. I think so far in the preseason, I think he's looked very good at both ends of the ice. He was really creative in the Kings preseason opener. And I thought in this game, this most recent game against the Ducks, I saw a lot of very mature, solid defensive play. Again, I just think he's showing that he's a player ready to take the next step, ready for more responsibilities. And I hope he's getting the opportunity. It looks like so far there's no reason that he wouldn't. And Jim Hiller had some glowing things to say about Brandt Clark to LAKingsInsider.com after this win over the Ducks. Hiller said, quote, "It's just one of the great things about coaching, winning, but the other one is to see a guy like Brandt with all the talent and promise and emotion come in and see him in 12 months to where he is today. It's really, really cool to see. Really see him maturing and confidence and understanding the game at a high level and the details defensively. And we know he's just going to go up offensively, but it's just really impressive. And it's a fun part of the job when it goes that way." End quote. So translation there, obviously they've asked Brandt Clark to do certain things. They believe in his talent, but he has to prove it to them on the ice, understanding what he's supposed to do and then seeing him doing it on the ice because he's putting in the work, because of the concentration on the things he's been asked to do. So I think encouraging what we're seeing from Clark so far in the preseason, encouraging what we're hearing from Jim Hiller about what he thinks and how he thinks Brandt Clark has progressed, earning more responsibility, earning more ice time. So as it stands right now, looks positive for Brandt Clark to be on that second pairing and getting more responsibility, more minutes for the LA Kings coming this season. Kevin Fiala, we had the full range of Kevin in his preseason debut. We had some prime examples of bad Kevin, and we had a glimpse of good Kevin as well. He took a bad penalty in the offensive zone, a hooking call that he had no business taking, had a couple of forced passes that led to turnovers, including a no-look backhand pass to no one in the neutral zone. But he did redeem himself a bit by putting home the Kings' third goal of the game. Hopefully, Fiala uses this game as a reminder of what he shouldn't be doing and eliminates those things going forward. It took him about half a season to finally have the light bulb go off. Last year, hopefully it doesn't take that long. This year, as far as the goal he scored, I thought a great case of chemistry with him and Alex Laferriere. Laffy loves to try this no-look backhand pass as he's going around the net. He's done it multiple times. I haven't seen it work yet until this game against the Ducks, and it was pretty clear that Fiala read what he was going to do, and he was ready for it. And Laferriere made that pass as he's going around the net, drops it back. What he hopes to do is exactly what happened. He gets the goalie moving with him as he comes around the net, and then there's pretty much a wide open net there, as long as the defenseman isn't paying attention, which he kind of wasn't in this case. And Fiala was like, I know what he's going to do. Puck's right there. He puts it in, scores the goal. So that is what you get when you have players playing together for a while and understanding tendencies, things they like to do. So that was cool to see the chemistry between those two guys. But hopefully Kevin Fiala gets rid of that. We saw it was a perfect example of bad Kevin from last year and good Kevin. So hopefully, again, more good Kevin to start the year, and he carries it through. We saw Darcy Kemper for the first time this preseason, last year's Vezina Trophy winner, or I should say finalist, not winner. He did not have to work very hard in this one at all, but sometimes that can be difficult if you're inactive for a lot of the game and then you're called on to make a save in a key moment. The Ducks only had 4 shots on goal in the first period, just 3 in the second, 7 in the third. I would say Kemper probably made 3, maybe 4 challenging saves. The rest were all pretty routine, saw them all the way. And it's fun when you have the defense the Kings have and the goaltender the Kings have. When you have a lead in the third period, you feel pretty good that they're going to do the things to make it stand up, especially if they have like a 2-goal lead going into the third. You feel pretty confident that at worst, maybe it goes overtime or a shootout. But Darcy Kemper did what we expect him to do in this one. And, look, he's confident in his defense. Clearly, they're a big part of his success, the team defense for the Kings. We talked about how limited the number of shots were for the Ducks in this game. And conversely, when you're the Kings, you feel like I don't have to play perfect hockey. If I do make a mistake, we've got a goaltender that can have my back. So it's a situation where, both of those factors come into play. And when it's working together, you get what the Kings had last year, a goalie who's a Vezina Trophy finalist and a defense that's one of the best in the NHL. So I know Vladislav Gavrikov leaving has a lot of people concerned that maybe that takes a step back this year. It may take a small step back. I don't think it takes a big step back, but that's an opinion. That's not a fact. We'll see how it goes as far as the season unfolding this year. But I still think the Kings are very strong defensively. I still think the Kings are very strong in net. And that'll be the backbone and the identity of this team going forward. All right, some more things to talk about. Talk about one of the players that I've mentioned a little bit already that I'm so excited about seeing for a full season this year. That and more coming up here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. All right, we are continuing to talk about the Kings preseason win over the Ducks on Wednesday night, 3-0 shutout victory in Anaheim. Talked earlier about the excitement of the Kings' number one power play unit. And part of that excitement is an Andrei Kuzmenko being a part of it for a full season. And along those lines, same thing goes for the Kings' top line, for the Kopitar line. To see Andrei Kuzmenko with Anze Kopitar and Adrian Kempe for a full season is really exciting. And I've kind of mentioned this before, but Kuzmenko is kind of Fiala without the drama. Now, he may not have quite that upside offensively, but what he's shown in his brief time in LA is that he can be a dynamic and creative offensive player, but he doesn't take a lot of penalties, and he rarely forces things. He's very patient. He sees the ice really well. And when he makes a pass, it's usually either a pass that's right on the stick, or at least a pass that's not going to get you into trouble if it's turned over. So no points in this game for Kuzmenko, but again, love watching him, love his creativity, love his quickness, and again, excited about seeing him for a full season for the Kings. He did have a really nice setup to Adrian Kempe that almost led to a goal. As far as Adrian Kempe goes, solid again. We talked about the nice defensive play he had, breaking up a shorthanded opportunity. I mean, he looks dangerous, had a few decent chances. I think he puts home that play from Kuzmenko if it's regular season. He took the extra second to kind of get it on his stick. And, that looked like a preseason, just a little bit of rust. Normally, though, he gets that shot off quickly and scores. So confident that would have been a goal in the regular season. He'll, again, get the rust off, be ready to go for the regular season. Kempe drew a penalty in this game, but he looked dangerous as he usually does. And Anze Kopitar making his preseason debut as well in what will be his final NHL season. Again, looked like his solid self. He actually had a break-in chance that he didn't finish on, but good in the face-off circle, good defensively, just typical Kopitar. And it does feel a little different, though, knowing that this game is one step closer to his career being over. So you check off another game, and it's almost here, his final season with the LA Kings. Quentin Byfield continues to look like a dangerous player. Looks like the most skilled player on the ice. At times he's just flying around, and it's almost like the other players are kind of standing still. He did have a very good shorthanded breakaway scoring chance against the Ducks. Made a very subtle, skilled move when he used his body to shield the defender. Unfortunately, the shot went just wide while he was going at a high speed. Certainly, that's one he wants to bury in the regular season. But we all know we're looking for Q to make that next step. I've been encouraged by what I've seen from him so far this preseason. A guy that maybe a lot of Kings fans aren't familiar with, Martin Chromiak, a skilled player, but still kind of waiting for him to have at least some sort of a semi-breakout season in the AHL to show that maybe he could do that at some point at the NHL level. Had a great finishing shot on the Kings' first goal on a nice setup from Jeff Malott, top corner, glove side. The second goal we've seen from a quote-unquote AHL player, that was a perfect shot. Taylor Ward did it against Vegas, right into the top corner of the net, glove side. Martin Chromiak did it against the Ducks. Great shot. Nice goal for him. Hopefully that helps his confidence going forward as he needs to take a step forward probably in the AHL this year to give the Kings hope that his development is on the right path. Talked about on Tuesday's show, Kings first round draft pick this year, defenseman Henry Brustevich, and how he just doesn't look out of place despite how young and inexperienced he is. And I have to say the same thing in this game. And from what I've seen so far from his London teammate, and that's defenseman Jared Woolley. We know he's got the size, so he doesn't look out of place at all on the ice, even though he's a very young guy. But he has been very solid in the games that he's played. And same thing in this game from him as we saw from Henry Brustevich against Vegas. Just doesn't look out of place. If you didn't know anything and you just said, let's watch this game, what do you think about this player? You'd think he was probably, a bottom pairing NHL defenseman. And to say that about those two young guys at this point of their careers, when you would think they're still multiple seasons away from the NHL. And again, I know it's preseason, but they are going up against NHL level players. And for young, inexperienced guys like this, I think the best way to describe it is they don't look out of place. And I think that's pretty impressive for a couple of really, really young players who are still going to get better. All right, before we wrap up the show, I do want to do the 3 stars of the game for the 3-0 shutout win over the Ducks. Our number 3 star is going to be Darcy Kemper. Again, shutout victory, and normally that would get you more than just the number 3 star, but again, did not have to do a ton of work in this game, in this win for the Kings. But hey, a shutout's a shutout. So Darcy Kemper is our number 3 star. He had 14 saves in the shutout. Martin Chromiak, who I just talked about briefly, scoring a goal in this one. He's our number 2 star, but the number 1 star, no surprise here. Well, a surprise going into the season or the preseason, but not a surprise based on how he's played recently, and that's Jeff Malott. Goal and an assist in this one, and continues to be one of the better players for the Kings so far this preseason. Like I said, if he hasn't wrapped up that spot on the left wing on the 4th line to start the season, that would be a pretty big surprise at this point. So Kings are 3-0 in the preseason. Like I said yesterday on a Tuesday show, not saying start playing on any kind of parade, but I would certainly rather be 3-0 and playing the way the Kings have played after 3 preseason games than some other possibilities. So there's nothing bad about it. There's nothing discouraging about it. So far, so good as far as the health goes in the preseason games. Everybody's good so far. Hopefully that continues. But again, just not spectacular, but solid, good hockey from the Kings. And that's what we're expecting in the regular season as well. And hopefully, as we've talked about, guys taking another step forward, new guys coming in and chipping in, and hopefully the Kings have the season and are ready for the playoffs to have more success this year. All right, for you everydayers, those who listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, at the end of the week, we have your chance to give us your thoughts with our fan feedback show. What do you think about the Kings being 3-0 in the preseason? Which players have stood out to you? Which players are you most excited about this season? If you want to get an email in for that or anything else, anything Kings related, certainly you're welcome to give us that. The email address, lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. If you're watching on YouTube, we welcome your comments in the comment section. If you're on social media, we'd love for you to be a part of the show by following some of our social media accounts, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're at Locked On LA Kings. And if you're interested in some extra Kings content, we had a live chat/watch party going on during the last 2 preseason games. You want to be a part of some of those? Well, we plan on doing those for the Kings road games this season. Send me an email, lakingsextra@gmail.com, and we'll give you the information on how you can join us. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thanks for listening and watching Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.